It's racism. It's almost like an apartheid against the people, the British people. This is what's happened in the police, in the councils, because it's basically using our own democracy and liberal laws against us, taking over the systems. They've lost control and they're pandering again. If you're openly Jewish, then you can't go there. That's showing there will be violence from it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Western Spirit Podcast. I'm Ariel Whitman, and today with us we have Asher Gould, Ash, as he's called on TV sometimes. Asher is a broadcaster and presenter, long time in the UK, and I got to know Ash from the show he used to host with James Whale, Zichrono Livracha, may God bless his memory, who passed away not too long ago, and was doing the show while being terminally ill for a long time. And their rapport was very endearing to me, and their support for us, for the Jewish people, and for Israel. So I thought, other than that, Ash is someone who knows a lot about what's happening in British media and in society and over there across the pond from America and not too far from where I am in Israel. So I thought it would be interesting to talk with you, Ash, about what's happening in your country and in the world. So Ash, it's a true pleasure to talk with you.
Yeah, great to see you for the first time, Ariel. Yeah,
Yeah,
and I'm glad you were listening. Hope it didn't have too much of a bad effect on you with
we're
me
okay.
and James.
Um, so let's start with the media. So about a
Yeah,
week ago from when we're recording, this BBC controversy comes up, and it comes up in the context of Trump. They took two parts from
yeah.
50 minutes, not 50 minutes apart, and connected them. And so if you didn't know, you would think that he was saying one thing when he was saying pretty much the exact opposite thing. And they
Yeah.
just presented it as fact. And then so that was the thing that made it all come out. But actually, the BBC has been horrible on not just that, but on so many things. And we're talking from Israel all the way from, especially since October 7th, they've been just lying on a lot of things, right?
Mm. Well, I mean, it's everything the BBC does. I mean, they have to sign a legal charter where they have to be, unbiased and tell the truth, and they're the worst at it. I mean, not only against Israel. Obviously, there's been an average, I think, 2 complaints upheld against them every week since October the 7th about that. They're also anti the British people. 90% of the British people. Anti this mass migration, and they basically troll and pro Brexit, and they're always against the British people, and they only take one side. Same with global warming, they only take one side. It's like a decided, a done deal. And really, I mean, they are breaking the law according to the charter. The directors, really, I think it's fraudulent. They're meant to, it's meant to be impartial, and it obviously isn't. And they go, "Oh yeah, we get complaints from the Israeli side, and we get complaints," which is a load of bunkum. If you look, there's not been 2 complaints upheld against for stuff they've said against Hamas. Do you know what I mean?
They refuse to call
I
them
mean,
terrorists, right? They refuse to.
of course, and they won't even call them terrorists. And the
Yeah.
thing with the Trump thing, where they splice this thing, it's like a real base, like what a kid would do. If an intern did that where I work, you go, "Oh, clever," but you definitely can't do that. And this is the BBC; they're meant to be world renowned. They're not world renowned anymore. I think people can see through them. It's like our NHS service. They say, "Oh, the world's jealous about our NHS," and I used to have girlfriends who were from Europe, and they go abroad for the operations. If they needed prescriptions, yeah, they'd stay here because you get all the free medicine. But no one's jealous of our system, and if they were, why wouldn't there be an NHS replicated everywhere? Which there isn't. I mean, the Israeli, you have a great system, don't you? Where you've got like 3 private companies that sort of compete. It's sort of half NHS, and that's a fantastic way because obviously you've got the competition, but it's like a sacred cow, as they say. Our NHS is, our BBC is, even the police are sort of biased now. You can't get to any of the high up roles unless you toe the line and become part of the DEI thing. If you don't, then you're, well, at worst cancelled, and at best you just don't get promoted ever.
But wait, Ash, I just want to understand. You've been in this business for a long time. Has it always been this bad, or is this something that 10 years ago, if you would have looked at the BBC, was it
Yeah.
this bad, or
Yeah,
is it?
it probably was. It's just obviously you had the October the 7th thing, but across the whole of the UK, it's been gradual. You know what I mean? It's been it's like the frogs in the frogs in the water, and it's slowly turned up to boiling, and you don't notice what's happening. You know, because I've lived in Birmingham when I was young, so you know, the population and everything has changed since well the 70s, 80s, like. But now it's sort of got to a mass point, and then with October the 7th, it's sort of crystallised everything. You know, you got these marches every Saturday, and everyone's suddenly noticing. Oh yeah, we're sort of not our country in some ways. A lot of things, and we've lost control. And if you say anything about it, they'll come down on you like a ton of bricks and put you in the slammer in prison.
Yeah. So I want to ask the follow up question would be, putting aside for a minute the Israeli Jewish thing. It seems
Yeah,
like you said they're against everything that would say not the elite British society, but like the everyday Brit walking down the streets. I
yeah,
spoke yesterday with someone. His neighborhood has been he doesn't see people that, and it's not a racial thing, but people that are natural born Brits. They're all
yeah,
immigrants. And it's something when your society changes so rapidly and you're not allowed to notice it. You're like, if you are noticing, you're a
yeah, yeah.
bad person. Is that
You're
something?
a racist, yeah. That's
Yeah,
how they
yeah.
shut down, but that's not working anymore. But yeah, the British bashing corporation. But yeah, and they won't that's what people are calling them, and they won't cover stories. You know what I mean? This is meant to be the media. They don't cover stories that don't fit their narrative. So if there's protests against some migrant hotel or Iran, I mean, they even who was it, the head of Iran, when he did a speech, they played it live for 45 minutes on BBC, like he was their leader. And I think like it's been infiltrated basically, as our Home Office, as every institution. And you know, there needs to be something about that. I mean, we know like the Islamic Brotherhood have said part of their goal is to get into all the institutions, win democratically, win by getting massive population, and they've sort of succeeded. You know, in the Home Office and in universities, in education, in everything. And it's not just that; it's also the left. It's the alliance, isn't it? The Red Green Alliance, and they are now. It's like the cuckoos in the nest. They've taken over old institutions, and they're in charge of things, and we're in right trouble. We're in a lot of trouble in this country.
But also, do you get the sense, just in general, and this is something that's also true for America, I think, that a lot of these elites in the institutions of British society, they don't really, it's when they talk, not just BBC, but you can see it in Sky and all these
Mm.
other, I don't know all the names, Channel 4, I think, by
Channel
you,
Four, yeah,
and a lot of the newspapers and a lot of the politicians in the governing party now.
yeah.
It seems they don't really like Brits. They don't, it's like they look down upon you people.
They're like disgusted by us, aren't they?
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
we're like it's. Well, I remember Starmer was asked Westminster or Davos, and he went, "Oh, Davos," without hesitation. You know what I mean? He didn't even hide it. But yeah, well, luckily in America they've got Trump at least, who's been voted in. We've got 3.5 years left. I don't know if we can survive that, man. But you know, we had the Supreme Court ruling against the trans thing, and yet it's being ignored. You know, these people that they will ignore things if you say them, and they'll call you racist. They'll never answer questions because ultimately they know they're wrong. They're just virtue signaling narcissists.
Yeah. But also, so I'm going back now to the Jewish thing because I think it ties into what we said. So you had the terrorist attack on
Yeah,
Yom Kippur, and it seemed that a lot of the looking across from here, a lot of the reaction by the British politicians and the government ministers, etc., was obviously we're against terrorism, but we're also worried about Islamophobia, right? We're also
yeah,
worried
yeah.
that the
They try and turn it around. Yeah,
yeah, like a second ago, two Jews were murdered, or one and the other one during the attack was killed. But two Jews were murdered in an attack, and your initial reaction is yes, but please don't blame Muslims. Like, why is that always the like you have to put in the caveat of saying we're against anti-Semitism, but we're also against Islamophobia. You can
yeah.
never just be against anti-Semitism. They never do that.
No, well, no, they do that. You know, they make out the far right bogeyman, don't they? In fact, even on the BBC the next day or that day, they're going, "Oh, well, we don't know. Could it be far right? Like far right never come run in a synagogue and would never do that. Well, maybe, but it's hardly." And the other thing they say, you know, they've got this prevent thing with the MI5, which looks at people who have been radicalized and stuff like that, and they say, oh, there's far right and there's Islamic fundamentalists. We've got to look at both. And then you look into the figures, and it's 95% Islamic fundamentalists, and so they're taking her off the ball, and it's because people in the Home Office. There's a whole network running things and trying to change the narrative, like you say. There's no real Nazis and far right in this sort of groups of maybe about five blokes in some basement who've got a very low IQ and shaven heads, maybe doing something. But it's not like it was. It was never that strong in this country anyway. But obviously, you've got 40,000 people on the jihadi, prevent list. This guy who was called Jihad, who attacked the shul in Manchester, his name was Jihad. I mean, it does what it says on the tin, doesn't it? But he wasn't even on the list. And a lot of times there's these terrorist attacks, and they say, oh, he was on the list, but we took him off, like the Ruda Cabana, who killed those three schoolgirls. He was on, but he was taken off. There was one on London Bridge, I think. They were celebrating that this guy had been de-radicalized, and they had a nice party for him, and the couple of really good people who'd helped him. And then he obviously he got a knife out and started stabbing him. This was a guy who'd meant to be de-radicalized, and that's the thing. So they try and shift the blame, go, oh, it could be this side, it could be that side, but we know what's going on, and they have this view that you can de-radicalize people. Like, well, that's sort of patronizing, isn't it? It's that saying we can change what they think. They believe silly things, so we'll change it to what our beliefs are. Don't worry, we can all do that. Of course, they're not going to change their ways. They'll put their God above our law, and also there's the takia thing where you lie to get ahead. In our world, takia's blowing the chauffeur for a long time,
Yes.
but
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Takia. But yeah. So I mean,
For those non-Jews, I'll just say that that takia in Arabic is this
yeah.
concept of playing the Western game to infiltrate until you're able to conquer, and takia in Hebrew means to blow
Well,
the
to lie
shofar.
basically,
Yeah, to
to
play
lie.
the lie like you're actually
It's okay to
pro-West
lie,
and
but
you're
yeah,
patriots, and it's okay according to religion to lie if your end game is to take over and make Islamic
yeah.
law. And takia in Hebrew is to blow the horn on Rosh
The
Hashanah and Yom
horn, yeah,
Kippur.
because blowing the chauffeur, people
Yeah,
might have got the wrong idea
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
how well you treat your staff.
Exactly. Um,
No, but
can I,
yeah. Sorry.
Asher? So after October 7th, we saw these marches that you mentioned,
Yeah,
and you spoke a lot with these people on your show over the last two,
yeah, yeah.
3 years, 2.5 years, and so first of all, were you surprised by the amount of people? It's not just the marches, obviously, the amount of hate for Jews in the UK, the amount of abuse, the amount of, people that are just coming out full blown anti-Jewish stuff. They're not even hiding it most of the time. So
Yeah.
were you surprised by it, by the
I
extent of
think
it?
I was pretty surprised, but as it was quite in one way, it was a positive thing because, as Douglas Murray says, it takes something like this to happen, and suddenly there's a spotlight shone on everyone, and you get to see what everyone's thinking and who they are. Like Gary Lineker, I mean, we knew what he was like, but he came out and said a few things. But then you also meet your friends, people that and they're going, oh well, maybe there is a genocide, and all the Israelis have been a bit hard here, like as if if someone came here and killed 10,000 people, which would be about the equivalent, I think, and kidnapped 1,000 people, we wouldn't we'd go, oh, we better hold back a bit. Of course we wouldn't. You know what I mean? In Mosul, I think we killed 9-to-1 ratio. So it was nine innocent people for every one terrorist. I think in Israel it's 1-to-1,
It's
and a
one to
lot of
one
that's
or one
being
to one and a
lowered.
half, depending how you count. But it
Yeah,
doesn't
well, I
even get
mean, even
close.
when they say it's children, that means under 18. But if you're over 13, you're a combatant for Hamas.
Yeah.
They've got no scruples.
Yes.
So it's basically that's how it is here.
But how was it like? We saw these videos coming out of people like walking, and then the police would stop him and say, we're stopping you because you're being too openly Jewish." And then there was the guy that was arrested, and his video came out. I think it was in the Telegraph or one of the other newspapers that he was investigated for wearing a Star of David, walking next to one of the marches, and you had all
Yeah.
these Was this always the way that policing was done in the UK? That
No,
if
no,
you
this was when this first happened, and it's still going on now. Yeah, you look too openly Jewish.
Yes.
Do
Why
you know
are
what
they
I mean?
doing that? Is that something that's like inherent
Well,
in?
they've because they've lost control and they're pandering again. You know what they should be doing is saying, well, because you're allowed to stop a protest if it's a violent protest, if you think it's going to be violent. Well, obviously, it's official that it's violent. If the police are saying, well, if you're openly Jewish, then you can't go there. That's showing. It's obviously showing that there will be violence from it, so they should be banned. And having it every week is costing. It's costing millions and millions. But yeah, of course, they should be arresting the people. There was a guy who says Hamas are terrorists. He's been arrested loads on Maya Tuzi's channel. You know, he's been arrested so many times, and he's just saying Hamas are terrorists, which is the official government position. And there was someone who celebrated Nasrallah's death, and he got also.
What are they being
He
arrested for? For like stopping the
Oh, well, what
peace?
happens is
Or
that I think they arrest him for public disorder. They say, "Oh, you're causing a public disorder," and then they de-arrest them. Although with the I think his name's Navan, he gets locked up sometimes for a day or two, and then someone comes and he gets released because he's sort of a journalist as well. But they basically get you out of there, and often they'll de-arrest you. So it's just a way of control. But they shouldn't be allowing that. It's freedom of speech, you know. You've got to be able to protest against the protests, and they've got to not be violent. That's how we. That's how it rolls in this country
right, and
and in any free country.
I want to just oppose that with what we're seeing in the UK with speech. So, on the one hand, you'll have all these protests that are literally calling a lot of times to kill Jews. Like you'll
Yeah,
have, for example, globalize the Intifada. We all know what that means. We don't need there
yeah,
to, explain to us like we're dumb what it means. That it's not really what they're telling us. We know. And you
yeah.
have sometimes blatant kill the Jews or attack the Jews or stuff
From the
like
river
that.
to the sea.
Yeah, we know what they mean. And
Yeah,
obviously, if the police know that you're Jewish and it's dangerous for you to be openly Jewish next to these protests, the police also know. And at the same time, we have people that write sometimes very disgusting posts, but still posts on X or on Twitter or on Facebook
mm,
or whatever, and they're being arrested in your country.
yeah. I mean, there was a guy who burnt the Quran here as a sort of statement of freedom of speech, and a guy ran out the Turkish consulate with a knife and started slashing at him. He didn't even go to prison. They tried to do the bloke who burnt the Quran, and he did get done in court, and then they appealed it, and they won the appeal. They said the judge actually came down good. He said it's freedom of speech, it's his expression. But the guy who actually came at him with a knife and stabbed at him and tried to and said, "I'm going to kill you," he didn't even get prison. He got a suspended sentence. And also, the judge in court, when he convicted the guy originally for burning the Quran, said it was obviously bad because two Muslims attacked you, one with a knife, so you must have done something wrong. So, actually, using the fact that he was attacked by a knifeman to show his guilt. So, I mean, the crazy, but we are getting decisions in higher courts that are maybe turning things around a bit, although we had the migrant hotel in Epping, which was appealed by the government to say that basically the migrant rights come above the rights of the locals, and they won that case in the end. So it's the judiciary is captured nearly, but there are some good judges. The police again, you won't climb up; they're captured. And it's like banging your head against a brick wall, but it will have to change because the British people won't put up with it. I don't know what they think's going to happen. That we're all just going to give up because they don't. We won't do that in Britain.
Don't they think that demographically you'll become a minority sometime soon, and therefore, why do they even need to listen to most of the Brits today?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's still the vast majority is British, even though you look at it in London, it's not, and in Birmingham, it's not. But if you look at the whole country as a whole, but yeah, they're worried about the votes, the voters, because obviously, a lot of them came very close to losing their seats, and as long as they stick with what they're doing, they'll get the Muslim vote. But now you've got five Gaza MPs now. I mean, they actually say that and they're hoping to keep them on side in the Labour Party, and obviously they've left, and there'll be other seats that come out. But Labour are basically trying to kowtow to them because like Angela Rayner only won. I know it was Jess Phillips only won by 600 votes. So these places, these people could lose in their seats, and So they're pandering to them. But the same thing happened in Iran, didn't it? In Iran, the left and they all linked up with the Islamic fundamentalists, and when the revolution happened, they all just got murdered by them. I mean, we're quite far from there, but you can see how quick things have happened in the last 10, 20 years. So it doesn't take much imagination to think, yeah, we're not really breeding much, the British people. And other cultures are, and it's part of their goal is to, well, they're already taking political control. It's like we said, 5 MPs for Gaza. That could be 20 in the next election. It could just keep going, and a lot of councils have been taken over. In London, they recently had a fun run. I think it was in Tower Hamlets, and they banned any women over 12 from doing it, and they said, "Oh, well, that's not what we can't do that in this country." And actually, that's been overturned by the law as well. So there are certain good things happening, and things are beginning to change. And I think the catalyst to it was probably Donald Trump and Elon Musk getting involved on Twitter. I mean, look at the grooming gangs. Well, not grooming gangs. I mean, look at what's going on there. Hundreds of thousands of mainly white working class girls. Look at working class boys. They're the lowest achievers on any coefficient. It's just it's racism. It's almost like an apartheid against the British people.
Yes, and we should say maybe just to I, the whole grooming slash whatever gang, because YouTube stops if you
Oh
say
yeah,
the word.
you have to
No,
dub that
my
out.
guy
Yeah.
will dub it out. But my point is that that whole scandal, if I understand it correctly, a lot of these cases were not pursued by police and authorities because they didn't want to be perceived as racist, right?
Yeah, and also because of the voters, and even so, a lot of them were actually involved themselves. I mean, some of these places are so infiltrated, you'll get families where one becomes the sort of, I don't know, criminal, maybe selling drugs. One will become the politician, and then one will run the hairdressers or the candy store, laundering the money. It's like like a tribal thing, you know what I mean? But it's like a family thing, and so whole areas are being taken over with systems from thousands of miles away. We're getting this culture, and it's the same if you look at actually the places that they've become. In Birmingham, it's become very messy. All right, it's because of the bin strikes, but people aren't. There's a lot of stuff in the streets, a lot of rubbish in the streets, and it does look like the third world in parts now.
And I heard that there's a lot of places where English isn't even on the like the streets, not the street signs, but like the stores, the signs.
Oh
I
well, the
mean,
stores, yeah, the street signs. Normally there are, but there are certain areas like I think in the Whitechapel there's I think is it Bangladeshi it's in or Urdu or something. There's some,
it's
but
funny, but
yeah,
it's sad.
yeah, but the shops, yeah, you're right with the shops. I mean, and even now in Birmingham, I've noticed there's billboards that are just Arabic and stuff like that. Yeah, and Urdu or whatever. I don't know, but I can't read it. But yeah.
You can be in the UK and not know English at all at this point and just stay and survive.
Yeah, you're meant to. In fact, a news story came out today because they're bringing in laws where you have to speak English, and they found a couple of people cheated, but they're letting them take it again and stuff. You know what I mean? But yeah, people came in here and have never spoken English. There's people who've been here 30, 40 years, like mothers of, who've never spoken English, and some see it as a bad thing. Don't learn the language of the kuffar and stuff like this. And our weak, lily-livered liberals gone. Oh yeah, no, bring your culture. We should be saying no. You come here, you'll be British. Don't, we can't. People say all cultures are equal. They're not. If you throw gay people off buildings, if you subjugate women, it's not a superior culture for obvious reasons. You know what I mean? It's so, I mean, and you can't just change people. It's ridiculous. It's actually infantilizing them and it's patronizing to say you can change them. That's their beliefs. That's fair enough, but it doesn't really work in the UK. And it's patronizing to say we can change them. We're better than them. We don't worry, we'll make them better.
Can I just
Ridiculous.
ask a weird question that I asked a few people from the UK? As a Jewish person, if you're openly Jewish, like me, I have a yarmulke, and where I grew up, people would be, if I would stay the way I grew up, I would be with a hat, jacket, the whole uniform, a big beard. All my friends from my old days, if they would be walking around in London or in Birmingham or
Yeah.
Manchester, would it be physically dangerous for them? Do you think?
I
In
don't
certain,
know. I mean, I've also thought that. I mean, obviously, I don't know because I've not lived it myself. But I see these people, wearing their hats and stuff, and I think you're very brave to do that. But yeah, I don't know. I would have thought they will get the odd word said to them. I can't see how that wouldn't happen. But yeah, I haven't had that. I mean, I'm a bit recognisable, but I have had a little bit, but not much. But like yeah, like you say, if you got the players or you got the hat and you got but yeah, they don't seem. I suppose they've used to. I think they've probably had it always. It's just got to a higher level maybe now. But yeah, they're brave people doing that. Definitely, man.
so, Ash, one more thing that is interesting is that your prime minister and the government itself is, I think, the most disapproving of the public. The public disapproves of this government
More than
more than
anything
any other government in the history
in
of the
history,
UK.
and
So,
the prime minister, yeah,
yeah, the prime minister, sorry, but he's, I guess, representative of the whole
yeah, yeah,
government.
yeah,
So,
exactly, yeah,
so first of all, which is weird because the whole reason why I assume they won the last election was that there was extreme disapproval of the Conservative Party, and then he wins out of this disapproval, and he's
yeah,
even way worse in terms of the way the public perceives him.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so, like you said, you have another 3.5 years. You're
yeah.
stuck, right? Unless something really crazy happens.
Yeah.
He might resign, but you're the same,
You'll get some other idiot. Yeah.
right? And a lot of them seem way worse than he is. It seems to me, the people around him.
What happened was, I mean, like you said, it was the Conservative Party that lost the election. They'd done such a bad thing, but a lot of people were warning, well, they might be bad, but this Keir Starmer will be a lot worse, And people went, well, yeah, but these Tories have been bad. I mean, Boris let in 1 million people a year, over 1 million people a year in the Boris wave. This was unheard of. It's more people in a year than the previous 1,000 years were let in or something. Or from 1997, I know more people were let into this country than the previous since 2,000 years. So, but Tony Blair, even, I think he let in 60, 70, 80,000, maybe 200,000 at one point, and Cameron not so bad. But then Boris was just letting in 1 million, and people were like, "Oh my god!" And then you had the COVID thing, and Sunak was a bit weak. You know what I mean? He was all right, but he wasn't really a leader. So we thought, oh, these guys are terrible. We just got, and of course, the only choice then is because we're sort of basically two parties, Labour, and then Labour came in and said, we're going to do this, this, this. We're going to don't worry about the farmers; they're going to be all right. Everyone's going to be all right. There's going to be change. We'll look after the elderly, and then come back and just basically renege on everything and put people in prison. And then we had the Southport thing where he locked people up like Lucy Connolly and. And we were like, my God, who is this guy's like the enemy? And he's got no personality. He seems like, I mean, often a lot of dictators are very weak little men, aren't they? With maybe a small man problem. And he's just been a social climber. He was never an MP. He was only an MP about 8 years before to try and basically he joined the Labour Party to become leader. He just looks at it as something to do on his CV. And it just shows the lack of quality of politicians that he was able to do that, man. But yeah, we've got ourselves in a right mess, and people warned against it, but because the Conservative and Boris did so badly, and then Sunak, that this is what happened. I don't know why Sunak called the election early. Still don't really know why, but probably wouldn't have made a difference anyway. He probably would have been maybe 6 months later. But yeah, we're in a right mess because of this.
How much, by the way, of the Corbyn wing? I know he's out, but his people that think like him, how
Yeah.
much do they control behind the scenes? What's happening in the Labour Party? Do you think?
Yeah, I think quite a lot because there's a lot on the back benches. He couldn't get through. He wanted to cut a lot of the benefit system, social security, but that basically they wouldn't. He'd have a rebellion, so he couldn't do that. And it's like what happened in the 70s. They're ideologues, and we can see what's happening, but they're not doing anything to stop it because no, we can't cut benefits. We can't cut benefits. We've got to do this. We go. I mean, we pay 110. I think 110 billion a year just on interest for our loan. I mean, that's unbelievable. Most of our taxes is just paying. We're borrowing money basically to pay a debt. We're in real trouble economically. We're in real trouble socially. Legally. On every metric. We're in stuck.
Yeah, and that brings us to the Nigel Farage phenomena. So
Yeah,
if I remember Nigel Farage being in the European Parliament when I was younger,
that's right.
and he was considered on the fringes at the time. And
Yeah,
then
yeah,
Brexit comes, and he's one of the main faces of it. But still, even at the time, he wasn't considered, I guess, a mainstream, like someone who had a chance to be the prime minister. And suddenly, he shoots up in all the polls, and he's now
yeah.
leading both in most of the polls, both parties combined. And so, how do you? What happened there? How did he become so
It's,
popular? What is
it,
his what is he actually proposing?
Well, it's basically similar to what happened to the Tories. Now they've gone Labour so bad, and the Tories were so bad. He's the one left now. But also, he's a great campaigner. He's a great speaker. He reminds me of the old style politicians. How he did Brexit almost single handedly. All right, there was other people in it, but it was probably the biggest event in decades in this country. And yeah, basically what he's doing now is just saying what other people think. Like we've got to stop mass migration, we've got to leave the ECHR, which is the Human Rights European Court of Human Rights, which means, if you try and deport someone, they can say, "Oh, but I've got a cat that needs feeding," and they go, "Oh yeah, no, that is illegal. Yeah, he must be allowed to stay." There's all kinds of stuff going on. I mean, I read in I think it was Switzerland, or it might have been Sweden. I think it was Switzerland. A guy raped a woman, and they said, "Well, we're not deporting him because the rape wasn't bad enough. It didn't last long enough." I mean, they come up with ridiculous things like that, man. But Farage, yeah, he's a great speaker. What he's got to do though is do what Trump did in his second term: is get the right people around him so he can get in straight away and do stuff. Or that is probably our last chance there. And I think Elon Musk agrees with that. Obviously, he had a split with Rupert Lowe and Ben Habib. But and at first he was a bit wavery with Nigel. You don't know how he's going to be politically as a leader, but he's a great campaigner. So I don't know, but it'll be he's in the lead by a long way, and even the Greens are second now. Who are
The
real
Greens are
lefty.
second
Yeah, I think they're now
before Labor and
second. Yeah, I
Conservative,
think so. I mean,
but they're
I
really
can't
crazy
believe it.
people. They're like
Yeah,
nuts.
they're all crazy. I mean, they want open borders and everything, but
They're
yeah,
like
it's terrible. I mean, if he does get in, what's he going to do,
right.
Farage?
What can he
Well,
do? Mass deportations is something that you
well,
think
he
would
can do
fly.
anything. If you're full sovereignty, you have full control. It's whether he has the minerals to do it. You know what I mean? But if you've got full sovereignty and you're the prime minister, in some ways, he's got more power than Donald Trump.
Right, because he doesn't have the Congress opposed to him. He is the
Yeah,
Congress, so to speak.
yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, you look at Starmer; he's bringing laws in that's not even going through Parliament. The digital,
Yes.
this new Internet Act and stuff like that. He's just an ID cards. Hopefully, that won't get through. I mean, this is in the ID cards thing is basically a worldwide thing, and Tony Blair's involved in it. His mate owns the company, and I think they're trying it out on Gaza. Gaza's going to be the guinea pig for this digital ID,
Well, with that,
apparently.
I don't have a problem. So let them go for
Yeah, well, I
it.
mean, yeah. I mean, we do need to know what's going on, but I mean, they're basically, marking us all, and
Yeah.
we'll eventually they'll put our money on it and everything on it, and they'll have full control of us, like the Chinese social credit system. You won't be able to go out and buy, another ounce of meat for a month, or you won't be able to travel because you've used up your carbon credits. It'll be all like that. While they go to like carved down virgin Amazon rainforest and are eating steak in the middle of the rainforest. You know what I mean? They're
Exactly.
all flying out in their jets.
That's
So
always the hypocrisy is always like I don't know if you saw it just down in Brazil. There was this
yeah,
there and
that's
they're
what I
all
mean.
dancing. Yeah,
They carved the whole bloody road out, didn't they?
it's
Yeah, we're really environmentally friendly. We'll just knock down this pristine virgin rainforest. Never mind the orangutans; they can
yes.
bugger off. They're stupid. And yeah, so basically, if Farage gets in, that's the last chance lottery, isn't it? And hopefully he'll do something, or what's going to happen then? Because we have had a revolution in this country. British people are very patient, but when they go, they really go. I mean, it hasn't happened for 400 years, but it did happen, and people should take note of that.
By the way, the whole thing with the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans and this whole thing, which by the way, it's so weird that in Israel no one really talked about it. So the only info
Mm.
I got about it was from your press. No one
Yeah,
really,
yeah,
because I guess we're so used to people boycotting us, like, oh,
yeah,
another
yeah,
thing in the
yeah.
UK and
It
this
is. It's an
place.
everyday thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so it's like, oh, that's just another thing in the UK, and we had the same time like five things in the Switzerland and another one in Paris, and some restaurant put a thing where no Jews allowed in Turkey, and
yeah.
so it's like, oh, okay, but do you think that? But this, I think, different because it was a government thing. So the police said it's not like a private business said no Jews, no Israelis, we don't want you guys to come in. It was actually something that was promoted or at least played along with by the security authorities. So do you
Yeah.
think that it was a legitimate security concern or that they really just didn't want the Israelis to come and this was just an excuse?
Yeah, no, I mean, well, because now it's officially, I mean, there's an MP that did it. I can't remember his name.
A
I
Gaza
use some.
MP.
Yeah, he was a Gaza MP basically. He took
Yeah.
in Perry Bar, the constituency Perry Bar. So he's official in some ways. And then, of course, the police are all infiltrated in with the left and with other, all kind of. And so they make the decision. And then there's a security group that advises the police. And of course, they're also part of the woke left, and they advise the police not. It's nothing to do with Aston Villa. So basically, it's like all officially, the officials have been infiltrated. And a week after this, announcement that they can't have the Villa fans, Starmer came out and said, "This is outrageous. This is anti-Semitic." And I thought, "Oh wow, he's actually saying something." Lots of people coming out and saying something. He'll do something, and then he just never did anything about it. I mean, he's the prime minister. He could have turned it round. That yeah. Basically, that's what's happening, and it was a foretaste of basically what's to come. We had a Batley Grammar School teacher who I think he put a picture of Muhammad or something in the religious studies. Nothing offensive, but he's now in hiding for about 4 years from threats from Islamist fundamentalists who went and protested outside the school. Now, we shouldn't be putting him in official hiding. The police should be coming out and protecting him and nipping this in the bud, and that's what they should have done at Villa, because now this sets a precedent. Well, hopefully it hasn't, that they'll do it for the next Israeli team that comes over, and they can't allow this. This isn't what we do in this country.
But it's also
So
very weird, Ash, just on the logics of it, just like let's say a football club in China wanted to come play in the UK and someone
yeah,
said we should boycott we shouldn't let their fans in because China is doing this and this.
human rights. Yeah. Oh, you
No
could
one
say it
would
for all the
ever say
countries.
that. No one would
They'd
ever
never
say
say
that. Right.
they'd never say it to any other country. I mean, we know what's going on. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? I mean, look at the genocide going on in Sudan. Look at what's going on in Syria, where they're
No
just
one
slaughtering
cares.
Druze and
Right.
Christians. Yeah, no Jews, no news. So, and it's so flipping obvious, isn't it? I mean, like you said, but they would never do this to any other team. And even if it was, they change it. Like I said, the narrative to they were hooligans. It's ridiculous. British police know how to deal with hooligans, and they're not hooligans. You know what I mean? They're nothing like what we've got in our own country. It's absolutely ridiculous. But this is what's happened in the police, in the councils, because it's basically taking over through it's democracy, using our own democracy and liberal laws against us, taking over the systems.
And Ash, do you think that young Brits understand this, or are most young people in the UK a little bit like some other Western countries, totally on the
Mm.
left, totally brainwashed? Do they?
Yeah, I think it's changing. I think it's changing because kids now, like 18-year-olds, anecdotally, and I meet a few mates' kids and that, and it's definitely changing because, like, if you want to follow this narrative that's going on, good luck because you ain't going to ever be able to afford a house. You'll be living with your parents till you're 45, and I think they're seeing that and they're going, actually, I don't like this. I like how it was, when I was young, I could buy a house in London, aged 24. You could never do that now. But and so they're looking at that and going, well, what we want to change it round. But then you've got the other side who's saying, who are very bitter lefties, are going, well, let's just take all the stuff off the people who've made the money, and we'll just take it off them and that. And
Mamdani types.
Yeah, well, we've got now people, I think it was 250,000 people left last year. So we've got a brain drain going on. So all our successful, the kids that have been educated here who are really bright, and they're getting out of here, and we're bringing in people from, the third world who are going to basically turn it into a dust bowl. And when it's all hollowed out and it's a husk, they'll leave or they'll just stay. I don't know what'll happen, but it'll be too late then. So we've got a massive brain drain, the amount of millionaires leaving. So obviously that doesn't help the economy because the top 1% I think pay 30% of all the tax. Well, they're all leaving. If you want to be a doctor, anyone who qualify here are leaving to Australia and America, and then we're getting the third world doctors, and they're come moving here. And some of them, you don't really trust how they get their qualifications. They found some people who actually, faked their medical stuff abroad and then they can come here and get a job. And of course, no one's going to argue with them because, you'll be racist if you do that. So it's really bad. So, but a lot of 18-year-olds and young kids, because Starmer's lowered again, without going through Parliament, he's lowered the voting age to 16. Can you believe that? Yeah, he's lowered the voting age to 60 because he thinks that young kids will vote. It's all fraudulent, really, because he wants it because he thinks they'll vote left wing. They'll vote Labour, but actually he might have. They're into like Nigel Farage now. A lot of the youngsters, because they're seeing, well, they like him. He's quite a charming guy. He was on some reality show a couple of years ago, that one where they're in the jungle, and it sort of made him popular. And they're going, well, actually, he speaks a lot of sense. And why do I want to be living at home till I'm, 50? And this is the way forward to go with this guy, or like you said, the Mandami way,
Yeah,
which is where you just take it
which is
off
the
everyone.
Green Party you said. So they're
Yeah,
like the
well, the Green
crazy.
Party as well. Yeah,
Yeah, and they are number two. So this is going to be if the polls are right in 3.5 years, whatever, the election will be between Nigel and the crazy Greens.
yeah. I
This,
don't think that. No, I don't think the Greens will be in there. I just think the Tories and Labour are doing so badly now. But deservedly so. I mean, the Tories caused permanent damage. Could cause permanent damage with the Boris wave of immigration. Labour obviously caused immense damage, and the Green Party. He's just met. He's mad. I mean, he used to be a hypnotist, and he used to say he could make women's breasts bigger by hypnotism. This is the guy. I mean, Zach Polanski. It's not even his real name. He changed it so he could sound a bit more like cool. Although Polanski isn't that cool if you look at
no,
the
it's
history of
not. It's
the
not.
Jack
We're not going to get
Polanski.
into it, but he's not. It's not cool. Uh,
Yeah,
uh, uh, lastly, I want to ask you about your career, and the way I knew about you was with James Whale. And you and James, you're Jewish, but James wasn't, obviously. And over the past, at least since October 7th, I found you guys on YouTube. And can you talk a little bit about, first of all, how your relationship with him was, and especially since October 7th, when he was being really sick, but would come in once a week and just go after all these crazy people,
yeah,
and
yeah,
a lot of times just really bring crazy people, showcase how crazy they were, and destroy their ideas in the most straightforward way that most people in journalism, for some reason, don't have the courage to do. So how was that? And
yeah.
um,
Well, it was great to, a lot of the presenters at Talk were, on the right side, which is quite unusual in this media. Yeah, he wasn't Jewish, but he was circumcised, so
for
he'd done the
Brits,
hard
that's
bit.
rare. Yeah.
But yeah, it was for the first few months we were getting these real crazy nutters on, and we've sort of stopped doing that now because it just got too crazy. We just end up in a big argument, and they're all irrational because obviously they don't have really any argument about it. But yeah, I first worked with him from 1995, so 30 years, isn't it? Yeah, so we nearly did the whole 30 years. And yeah, I mean, I knew him from before when he was on the television. I used to watch him on the telly, and I thought, yeah, they said we're going to put you with James Wan. I thought that's great news. So he was great. He was a great interviewer, in that he would be very instinctive and just go for it, which you don't really get much these days. And yeah, he picked the right side in that case. With Brexit and remaining, he was a Remainer, but he changed his mind in the end. But Yeah, he was on the right side. He was sometimes, before all that, he'd go, oh, like anyone. If you weren't Jewish and you didn't know the situation, and you look at all the news, you'd think maybe Israel isn't doing, is a bad, actor and all this. But when he saw what happened, and he got on side pretty quickly, well, instantly, because it's obvious to anyone with a brain who the good guys are in that
Yes.
situation.
But
But yeah,
Ash, can I just on a person like one of the things that I we spoke about before is that I'm losing my eyesight. I'm
yeah,
considered now legally blind. And one of the things that when I first started watching him, I didn't really realize until he started bringing up, I'm terminally ill. And there's a sense that a lot of people they love these days to be victims. They
mm,
love it, especially with this woke culture. You always want to win the victim Olympics. The more of a victim you are, the more social credit you get, the more you're appreciated, the more you're able to like use your, for example, race victim card to say things that people like me and you can't say. You know,
yeah, yeah,
we'll get fired for saying the same thing, but
yeah,
you,
yeah.
because you're a whatever victim, you can say it, and you get different government benefits and all this type of thing. But mostly it's social. But he wasn't using his victim
No,
status to just stay at home and not work or to feel sorry for himself. And in a way, these types of people are people that I say we should emulate. Like, I'm
yeah.
going blind. I'm not going to sit and speak to people like you and say how poor and how victim I am and how much I need to complain all day and get money from people and you owe me and you owe me. And could you talk a little bit about his outlook just on that point?
Yeah, well, I think in fact he turned it into a positive. He's going, well, I'm terminally ill now. I don't care if they put me in prison. They can't put me in prison. I'm dying. Now, what can they do to me? So, in fact, it gave him that liberation, didn't it? I mean, he had that anyway, to be honest. But he always had a slightly. But this sort of took the limits off because, well, I don't care. I'm dying, mate. So I'll say exactly what I want, and it was fantastic. I mean, obviously, it's not fantastic. But I mean, it gave him that freedom to be able to be like say exactly what he wanted to say, and be rude or do whatever he wanted. And they were never going to put him in prison anyway, were they? Because it wouldn't look good. But also, they seem to leave journalists and people with a bit of power alone with the media because they know they can get in trouble. We saw it with Alison Pierce, and we've seen it with Graham Linehan. You got the Freedom of Speech Union, which are doing a fantastic job. I mean, a lot of these people that went to prison, actually, they were encouraged to plead guilty by their lawyers, and if they wouldn't have and sent it to a case, they would have actually won it. So they were given bad advice. But yeah, things are turning with the Freedom of Speech Union, and with lawyers and judges mainly changing, possibly a bit. So yeah, hopefully that will we hopefully it will change. But the thing is, you still are getting the odd person. They're using the process as the punishment. So often the police will come round, knock your door down, and search you, and put you on bail for months and months, and then say we're dropping the charges. That happens in like 90%. So it's like they're using the process as the punishment. You know what I mean? It's like the Stasi turning up at your door, and it's unbelievable what's going on with some people. What they're putting on. There was a guy who just didn't like his deputy head teacher and sent it in a WhatsApp group between the other parents, and he had the police come in and get his phone and this. And Tommy Robinson, it happened recently, didn't it? At the airport, or ferry, he got pulled over and under a terrorism act just because one of the police said, "Oh yeah, we don't like him. He's Tommy Robinson. He's not a terrorist, though." You know what I mean? They use these legislations. They got COVID legislation and the terrorist legislation. We can seize your phone and do this. With that, you have to give us your number. So there's stuff like that. But hopefully things are beginning to change, and people are seeing the freedom of speech union, the overturning of decisions, and going, well, yeah, this is at least it is still working in some ways, and
I
so
hope
there
you're
is
right.
hope for the future.
Yeah,
I do think there's hope for the future.
I hope you're right. And by the way, Tommy Robinson was just here, and
That's right. Yeah.
it was weird in the Jewish, like some like the older Jewish, I think, organizations, the more I guess establishment types were really against him being invited here, and the
Yeah.
younger
Yeah.
Jews were more supportive. Do you think
Yeah. Yeah.
that's basically how it was? Like the people who are in
Yeah.
elite institutions because that's where the organizations are, like we don't want to disrupt what we have, and the
Yeah,
younger
there is a
people.
bit like that. I mean, you've got the board of Jewish
Yeah,
deputies here, and sort of they've felt like woke and sort of captured. I mean, so you've got the National Jewish Assembly set up by Gary Mond. I don't know if you've interviewed him. He's an interesting guy. You should speak to Gary Mond of the NJA. He set that up because he was in the board of deputies, but he saw what was happening to it. And yeah, you're right. It's a lot of the old institutions saying Tommy Robinson's, a racist, and I don't think he is. I think he's just a lad. I think it's a lot of snobbery because he's a working class lad from Luton, and yeah, your minister invited him over, didn't he? It was good to see. I mean, he's very pro-Israel, and they go, "Oh, he's paid by the Mossad." He's not. He's just he grew up in Luton. He knows what happens, and he's seeing it come into other towns around the country. He had cousins that were groomed. Well, groomed. You know what I mean? And
yeah. We all know what that word means,
we
really.
all know what it means, but. So, and people go, he's racist, but actually, you ask him to point it out. He's not racist. You know what I mean? There's lots of people. There's brown and black people in his organisation, and he's just grown up with the Islamic fundamentalism in Luton and seen what is happening. He's not against Muslims or anything. It's just against this Islamic. I mean, Al Muhajirun was from Luton, Anjem Chowdhury, Omar Bakri Mohammed. They're Luton based, and so he's seen the takeover of his town, and because he argues against it, the elites go, "Oh, you're racist," and other people will fall for it because obviously, like we were talking before, the media won't cover it. They won't ever have him on Newsnight or anything. It's all totally skewed and biased. So, and the people, a lot of people fall for it.
Yeah, and I would just add before I let you go that a lot of times, even if he is on the extreme right, let's just even give them that, is that the way they're acting to the regular Brits that are just voicing natural concerns, and you're demonizing them, you're pushing them actually to his ideas. So even if
Yeah,
you were really worried about his ideas, you would be more responsive, I think, as a society, to people who are raising concerns about safety, about demographic changes, about the economy, about all this kind of stuff, and you're like poo-pooing them and putting them in prison a lot of times, and attacking them for being racist. So they'll be like, okay, this guy's listening to me. And so you're
mm,
pushing them all into his arms. It's a little bit like Trump, in the sense that if you really believe Trump was Hitler and all this kind of stuff, you would be more responsive to the issues that he's raising. So, like,
yeah,
Trump says you're, law and order, and you're and New York and Chicago and all these places are really, the statistics show, are really bad. And so your natural reaction should be, okay, let's try to make it safer. And
yeah.
instead,
Of
the
course.
reaction is, he's a disgusting Hitler person. So
Yeah, yeah.
everyone who's naturally worried about law and order is like, wait, wait, wait. These people don't care about me, and he's talking about it, so I'm going
He's
to
saying he
him.
can do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I
And that
think,
pushes them
yeah,
towards them. But I don't think, like I said, I don't think he is racist. When he
yeah.
first started, he got a lot of the far right people coming to him, and he said, you're not welcome here," and he
Mm,
actually fought them and made them leave because he had that EDL organisation, and he
right.
did pick up a lot of people who were formerly BNP or National Front, and he didn't want that, and actually. He's shown that, but of course, people will just look at a working class guy, former football thug, and they'll go, "Oh yeah, of course he's far right." I
Racist.
don't think he is at all. I think he's right wing. He's just pro British, and he wants to get it
Well,
how it was. I don't think we'll ever get to back how it was, but we can definitely change things for the better here.
so Asher Gold, it was truly a pleasure talking to. I have to say that I have like so many stuff I can talk to you even more, but we both have to continue on with our days. So
Yeah, we'll do it again, man. We'll do it
yeah.
again.
So it was a lot of fun. Thank you for being with us, and
Thanks,
we'll
Ariel.
talk to you soon.
Yeah, man.